Warcraft originally started as quite a simple concept really, orcs versus humans, invaders versus the defenders. Then, over time, the game started getting more depth. We still had the simple races, but there was the Burning Legion, the ever-looming threat in the background, as well as the old gods. However, now we are walking in the workshop on the waters of creation of the first ones, the gods bigger than anyone else. We are going into this strange alien realm and are so split away from original Warcraft that it is barely even the same game. So what is going on with 9.2 Eternity's End? Is this even World of Warcraft anymore? First, I was a bit skeptical about this wallet, but Ridge, the sponsor of this video, sent it to me about a year and a half ago, and really, I've not used any other wallet since then. It is actually great. You can put 12 cards inside and you can put cash here as well, and there are over 30 colors and styles you can choose from. Check out my link in the description to get a 10% discount with code DORON and get your own Ridge wallet. No, I'm not going to pretend like we should just be simpler, anonymous adventures, fighting quillboars and gathering boar tusks for over 20 years. Realistically, MMORPGs are live games, moving worlds. There needs to be some type of evolution, and obviously the game is going to change over the years. That is just fact. There is really no way around it. However, has Blizzard maybe gone a bit too far to the other extreme? Personally, I'm not happy with just being a regular soldier with significance a bit larger than a simple grunt, but I don't really want to reset the engine of the universe and meet the creators of the gods behind the gods that shape the universe. Personally, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle, and yes, I'm aware of this fallacy just sitting on the fence, master race. Everything is best when it is in between, but in this case, I really do think this is it. At this point, the middle of World of Warcraft is around Cataclysm, and that might have just been the best period, at least from the lore side of the game. Wrath of the Lich King, Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria were good expansions from the storytelling perspective. We were fighting big evils, but they weren't the evil that can split and create planets. There were those in the background, but we were fighting powerful villains, dragons that want to undo us, the Lich King that wants to turn everyone into undead, and fighting an ancient Mogu warlord recently awoken from his long slumber. However, the fact that there were even bigger forces than them, way bigger in the background, kept a lot of the mystery that made the game just really interesting. For example, Ulduar was our first ever serious experience with a huge title complex, and that just might be one of the best places in the game. We visited these ginormous halls that we thought the Titans themselves walked in. The keepers that the Titans put in place ruled from here. However, there was this ancient old god evil that was corrupting everyone here and making this place really eerie, scary, and just powerful and grand. We literally reached this constellar Algalon that could undo the entire planet at the click of a button. So when we got there, we were like, damn, we need to get this done fast. We need to just sneak through these halls or everything we know will be undone. Keep in mind, all this would just be done by the mechanism and the minions of the Titans, but we never saw the Titans directly, and they were these gods that we thought were just beyond our imagination. Like, you couldn't even picture actually seeing them in person. Now, fast forward to Shadowlands and you can see the lore shifted by literally 180 degrees. Keep in mind, we are now going into Zereth Mortis, apparently the engine of the entire universe, the behind the scenes of everything, the key to the cosmos, and like the headquarters of the first ones. Keep in mind, with the Grimoire of the Shadowlands, the first ones are way more important than the Titans ever really were. Seriously, with our current perspective, it just seems like the Titans were just, what, impersonators and just glorified roleplayers, and the first ones are like the real OGs, like the real big guys. So, realistically, Ulduar is just an outpost of the minions left by the Titans on just one of the many planets they had visited, but Zereth Mortis is the key, like the place that controls everything. However, I can't be the only one that just doesn't find Zereth Mortis nearly as interesting, mystical, glorious, or whatever attribute you want to add, as I did find Ulduar back in Wrath of the Lich King. With Ulduar, we felt like, damn, finally we are learning about these Titans and now we're in their very halls. However, with Zereth Mortis, it's like, okay, I guess we're going there now. I guess we're just gonna follow the jailer there. Do you see how stupid it actually is? As I said, Zereth Mortis should be like the pinnacle zone of Warcraft, as they said, the end of the entire saga. Yet the hype just isn't there, or isn't there nearly as much as it really should be. I don't really like spreading negativity, but this really is a failure on the narrative on Blizzard's part. How are we supposed to be hyped up and just crazy excited about this place when we just learned about it like, what, 30 minutes ago? With the Titans, there was lore since Classic. We had the Explorers League. We knew they were searching for their ancestors. Then we ventured into a mysterious continent and ran into one of the outposts no one had visited. There was this trailer of the dwarves nearly driven insane by this mysterious ancient evil, and the factions just had to unite. With the first ones, they literally came up with them as a concept less than a year ago, and most of the info was actually in the book, and we barely know anything about them even now. Then we learned about Zereth Mortis at the end of 9.1, and then in the preview, they told us like half of the stuff that just completely ruined the mystery. I think this is one of the best examples where it's like, show, don't tell. You don't need to tell us we're going into the engine of the universe and the workshop of the first ones. I think we can just find out about it over time, but not just learn everything in 1 month. I think there should have been a well-planned story throughout the years that would build up to the culmination that would be Zereth Mortis, so we would be excited to finally visit this place, kinda similar to Argus. But I think that the narrative at this point just got so convoluted that it is really hard to make it seem good. The pacing is really off, the mystery is not there, or it is there, but it isn't well planned, and there is way too much, leading up to the fact that we still don't know what even is going on. And while I'm personally hyped up for 9.2, I don't think my hype is nearly proportional to what we're supposed to actually see in the story. As I said, with the way they wrote Shadowlands, this should literally be, from a lore perspective, the most important place ever, like literally ever. More important than Outland, Draenor, Argus, or wherever else we went, like 50 times more important. However, I can't say they did a really good job of building the hype up to that level by well planning everything. On the other side, the disconnect of the lore with the players aside, I think the visuals might also be a bit of a problem. Warcraft has a typical style. There is a certain theme, and while we did go to alien worlds in the past and all that, it was always connected in some way, shape, or form. For example, Draenor was orcs, which is the staple of Warcraft. Argus and Outland were connected to the Legion, and the mysterious old god stuff was related to, well, the old gods. However, this concept of the Shadowlands is just completely brand new. The new visuals from 9.2 could easily be connected to multiple other games before you would even realize it is World of Warcraft. Now, I am aware they're intentionally going towards this field because it is supposed to be the most mysterious place that we ever went to, and unlike anything else, Zereth Mortis is the Forbidden Realm, the place no one ever is meant to reach, regardless of their power level. So obviously it should be unlike anything else, but I feel like because of the lore, there is a disconnect here that just doesn't make it even seem like World of Warcraft. Now, I'm aware of the criticism, I don't want to get too negative. Sure, there is a ton of bad stuff going on, but it is possible that something big might be happening when the patch is actually released. Maybe they could finally put this all together to actually make sense, but unfortunately, seeing that this expansion is only going to have 2 major patches, I don't think that is very likely, especially as the story they decided to go with can hardly be explained in like even 5, so they decided to do it in 2. It is still possible that the story could at least be saved to an extent, but I'm really skeptical that there's going to be some grand finale that is really going to pay off and just blow our minds, and that all of us are just going to be wowed with. Thank you for watching. Check out the connection between Azeroth and Zereth Mortis, and check out Donald's Academy for videos on real-world history. See you next time.